That tells you what's happening on yours.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I think we fixed it. I think we're live now. Can you see and hear me? Make it rain donuts if I am visible and audible. We're going to talk about psychiatry again because it was big on Daily Wire this week. Candace Owens was talking about Freud. She was dunking on Freud, actually, which is a good sign. But I realized that, what's up, Paul? What's up, Sabrina? Moldy Apple, Jethro, Piano's here. Oh, glad to see you guys. Clint. And make it rain some donuts or something in the chat if everything's coming through. Can you see and hear? Yes. I realized last week I left you guys hanging about the end of the Super Bowl show. I was like not feeling so good, so I was trying to get off quickly, but it was kind of a cliffhanger because I said if you stay for the very end, I'll tell you what actually was happening. And yeah, so during the Super Bowl, or that Sunday actually, when everybody was watching the halftime show, the government had a rare Sunday meeting to pass a $95.34 billion aid package to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, while all of us citizens were distracted by the Super Bowl and everything. They sent $95 billion away. So now it's about time to call your accountant and make sure you pay your taxes on time because, you know, got to send that money overseas. And I honestly think that is why they posted that Joe Biden with the laser eyes on Twitter, and everyone's like, what does it mean? I think it meant this. I think that everything going according to plan was basically robbing the American people of all of their wealth and sending it overseas. So I think that was what the laser eyes tweet was before. So, but before we went into the Super Bowl, we were talking about psychiatry and Freud, and Candace Owen made a spicy tweet this week, and she said, the entire field of psychology was built by PDF files and preverts, that Sigmund Freud is viewed as anything more than a manipulative SEX prevert who created theories to cover the crimes of his PDF file friends is quite frankly stunning to me. So, good job, Candace. She's catching up to us 20 years ago. She's so close. She's so close to what we've all been talking about forever and ever, right? Piano got his tax return already. Oh, good. I love paying taxes. I wish I could pay more taxes. I wish, you know, they put a little line on your tax form to say if you want to donate, you can just pay more. I do that all the time. I just send money to the IRS because I think they're doing such a bang-up job. And they're super competent and transparent. Yeah, I think the money is going into good hands when I write a giant, humongous check 4 times a year to the government. I wish I could pay taxes all the time. But so if you send me some donuts today, I'm just going to send it right to the IRS. What's up, Moldy, Paul? How's everybody? So yeah, so psychiatry, modern psychiatry, not looking good, bruv. Things are coming out, things are being uncovered. If Freud makes it to Daily Wire as a villain, this is a good thing. She did a show, she was saying that Freud was a confused in his sexual nature man who his best friend was a PDF, a guy named Wilhelm Fliess. Freud was obsessed with sex. He introduced the concepts of children being asexual at birth, He came up with the psychosexual development theory and seduction theory. So what they were talking about on Daily Wire this week that goes along with our show is that there was a guy named Dr. Jeffrey Masson, who was a project director for the Sigmund Freud archives, and he actually learned German so that he could go through the archives better. He discovered that Freud was covering up for his PDF friends. When Freud realized a lot of children had been sex assaulted and that was leading to mental illness, he presented this info to his peers and they said, no. The Vienna Psychiatric Society. So Freud started blaming the children for being asexual by nature. They actually did mention the guy who we talk about quite often when we talk about psychiatry and psychology, Alfred Kinsey. I've done several shows with Jay about Alfred Kinsey. We even covered that horrible movie with Liam Neeson about the life of Alfred Kinsey. So you can go back and look at those. I think I even did, okay, so the show that I did with Kristen on YouTube called Top 10 Evil Science Experiments. We talk about Kinsey in that one, and I did on Rockfin, and I have several times with Jay, so we all know who that creeper is. He is creeper number one. What's up, Natoski? Technographics is here. Jethro's here. What is going on in the chat? Chat also loves getting robbed by the IRS. Yes. Have you guys seen that picture of the IRS with the weird sculptures out? Look, Google that. Go look at what is going on at the IRS building in DC. There's like a weird hand and there's some black and white striped sculptures and it just looks very creepy. But yeah, so send me some super chats and some donuts and we'll send them straight to the government because they know, top men know how to invest our money and they are responsible with it. It goes to the good of society. I mean, how would we have roads and schools and all of these things if we didn't pay interest to the Federal Reserve on the money that they print for us? I mean, we wouldn't have anything, would we? Some people only work for cash, yeah. Sabrina wants to watch the movie about Kinsey. It's not very good. It's pretty disturbing. It's, yeah, but who's that? John Krasinski's in it? So they got Jim from The Office to make it look like some lighthearted romp through psychiatry. It's disgusting. Ooh. Got a bunch of chocolate chip cookies in the chat. That looks good. Clint says the Fed tax violates the enumerations clause, the 10th Amendment, the 10 square mile clause. The list goes on. Yeah. Maybe one day on Rockfin we'll do Creature from Jekyll Island, and then we will all learn how the federal income tax came to be. But tonight we are covering psychiatry. We are talking about consuming kids, and we're getting back to where we left off last time. Who has the monopoly on consciousness? Who has the control over your mind? So we have been talking about magic, talking about sorcery, symbolism, psychology and psychiatry. Last time we talked about Edward Bernays, the American pioneer in the field of public relations, CIA affiliate, presidential aide, and master sorcerer. Dr. Crispy's here. What's up? What did you send me? Airplane seeds? Okay. I'll take it. Dr. Crispy sent me some charts. Yes. Okay. I like the strawberries and the cakes. You can tell I like sweet things. Yes, Jay just dropped a short comedy skit. It's pretty funny. He's been working on that today. I haven't even seen it yet. I've been busy. Is it good? I've got my co-host Olipop going on here. So yeah, the purity of children, exactly, that is affected by marketing, propaganda, psychiatry, psychology, and so close to getting to the heart of it with the MK Ultra and the Monarch program. Maybe let's pray for Daily Wire that they catch up to us. Okay, so let's talk about the monopoly. As far as choices go, you don't have many in the Western world, and we're going to look at some stores, how the stores used to be. They're not like this anymore because we're going into more androgynous society, but it used to be princess warrior programming. And so that was about 15 years ago. We were talking about princess warrior programming. And I have a quote here from Tiny Mustache Man. He says, "He alone who owns the youth gains the future." So that is pretty apt quote from Tiny Mustache Man. Obviously, the NAZI youth was a big part of that party and the military success they had because they were indoctrinated from birth, right? So, as far as your choices go, how much variety do we really get to actualize our inner self? Remember, we were talking about how the economy went from a needs-based consumer to actualizing this person that you think of as yourself and using products to do that. I'm a Nike person, I'm a Subaru person, I'm a Lululemon person, all of those things. You don't really have a lot of choices when you're trying to actualize your inner self. It's all marketed to you, right? You guys are talking about how do I dust the bookshelves? Who says I dust them? No, I don't know. You can't really, because you'll have to take all the books out and like wipe it down so you can just dust the little ledge. That's all you can get to. So we see that the media and the consumer propaganda is controlled by a small group of people whose values we couldn't even begin to understand, okay? And this is what is so frustrating when you're talking about where things come from the elite, from the top down, from think tanks, Tavistock Institute. We covered that a couple of weeks ago. The average person can't even conceive of how mentally ill these people are without God. And so that's kind of a weakness on our part, that we don't know the psychology of evil. And so people will be like, they would never do that. They would do that. They are doing that. They have done that. They will do that. Just because you're a nice, well-adjusted person who doesn't want to depopulate the whole world doesn't mean that they are like that, okay? So let's not project our own goodwill and our good nature onto these people. We have to be suspicious of them. So, you know, when few people own everything, it's called a monopoly. But before it was a board game, the word monopoly had negative connotations. Now people just think of, you know, it's a fun game to play, but they don't think about actually what is a monopoly. But in this article, in this chapter, in this book, I'm positing that these sorcerers have a monopoly on our consciousness, on our life, on our how we turn out as people. Yes, Pano says, be wise as serpents, but innocent as doves. Thank you. I did have some donuts from last week that came in after I logged off, so let's just read those real quick and then we'll get back into the monopoly. So we had Pipe Down Some L, no message, $15, thank you very much. Moldy Apple, $5, sing Coomer Chameleon again. Oh no. Is Dr. Crispy gonna get mad if we sing No, what is that song that he hates? At the Copacabana. Coomer chameleon. That's Freud. He's the Coomer chameleon. Justin, $5. Was Usher's brooch about anything symbolically? I thought it was a phoenix, wasn't it? So I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the phoenix is a huge symbol of birth, death, and rebirth. And it is a symbol of the great work of the New Age that the Enlightenment era thinkers have passed down to the Founding Fathers. And it basically represents, order out of chaos, or destroying the old way of doing things to build it again from the ashes the way that you would want it. It's a build back better, right? But of course, to do that, you have to burn everything down, and that's what they are attempting to do. Phoenix, initiation of fire. Yeah, that's right. Dr. Crispy, what, now I thought you hated that song. You're putting the lyrics right out here for me to sing. Her name was Lola. She was a showgirl. Mela said, oh, red, red wine. That's a good one, Mela. I think we were just listening to that last night. Jethro says, order out of Kumas. Yep. Is there any of you nub freaks in here? Everyone was going crazy about nubs last week. That was so funny. Okay, so before Monopoly was a fun game, actually, it's not that fun, is it? Because it teaches you how things work, and if you can get a Monopoly, it's almost impossible to get back, the property that people own, and now you have to pay taxes on it, and you end up flipping the board over and hating your cousins and, going to bed angry at Christmas. So 30 years before Parker Brothers published Monopoly, a man named Charles B. Darrow was introduced to a game by a group of Quakers called the Landlord's Game. So originally, the game was to prove how futile and frustrating this component of capitalism can be. It was created as a cautionary tale for children to show how slums will develop if one person was allowed to own all of the property. So he copied their board and rules verbatim, then he sold it as his own creation. Parker Brothers supported him, putting a copy of the story of Monopoly that cited him as creator in every box. So yeah, it was created as a warning, as a cautionary tale. Right? Nub time was fun. Let's bring back the nub times. Nub times were good times. Nub World Order. Heavenly says, Jamie, has anyone told you look like Taylor Swift? No, not exactly. I'll take it though. That's not bad. Nub took on a life of its own. It did. Now it's crossed over from Patrick to here to Jay's stream. I saw you guys talk about nubs in that chat too. So right now, well, at the time that I was writing this book, maybe not exactly right now, but in 2012, the most powerful Monopoly man on Earth was actually a cartoon mouse, right? It was America's largest multimedia conglomerate ever in history, and it was Walt Disney's assets that included movie studios, radio, television stations, magazines, publishing companies, theme parks, sports teams, theaters, tourism, and cruise lines, etc. And not just that, through its subsidiaries, it produces a lot of corn and pay-per-view, stuff like that. So it's not all about family-friendly entertainment. They allied with the multimedia giant Apple. And Steve Jobs was, before he died, this largest shareholder in Disney. And it was the largest influence in culture creation on the planet for 50 years or more. Now it's tanking. Actually, I shared this on Twitter. Father Josiah Trenum of Riverside made a video called Down with Disney. So everybody go check out Patristic Nectar on YouTube. Father Josiah Trenum. He is informed. He's a good priest. I like his reflections. I've never been to that church, but I watched them on YouTube, and I appreciate whenever he posts something. But yeah, he did a video called Down with Disney that I recommend you all go watch right now. Not right now, right after this. Paul says, Jamie, have you heard of the Disney communities outside Florida? Wild. Yes. What is that called? Celebration Florida. So Jay and I did actually like take an afternoon and we drove through Celebration, and we like got out, we went to the coffee shop, and it was so weird. So first of all, Celebration, probably a human TRAFF place. I don't know. I'm just speculating. Oh, and I found that thing about the girl disappearing in the floor. I'll play you that in a minute. But so we went to Celebration, and this is a place where it's supposed to be idyllic and picturesque all the time. So they have like a 40-page book of how you have to keep your house, and you can't have like certain color curtains. You have to have this color, that, and like decorations. I mean, you think your HOA is bad. This is like the HOA from hell. But yeah, Celebration had its own school. It had a church called the Church of Illumination. It was creepy as hell. We went into the coffee shop / diner thing, and it was like, you know in the movies when you get to a town and you walk into a bar that everybody knows each other and you're not supposed to be there, and everybody turns around and looks at you at the same time like you're not one of us? It was like that. So we didn't spend very much time there, but this is a place that will ship in, like, or they used to, fall leaves in the fall because it's Florida. They don't have 4 seasons, and they'll, like, make it snow. It's just a very weird, contrived community for people that are, like, a little, like, have the Disney downs, you know, like the, like, Disney adults, like, weird about it, will move to Florida. Yeah, Church of Illumination, exactly. Like Edward Scissorhands. It was kind of like that. It was very fake, very creepy, and we did not spend very much time there. But yeah. So, where were we? You know, understanding Disney and their cultural role is not a simple task. Its influence in everyday life is cross-generational. It's spanning over 85 years. I mean, who can forget their first time at Disneyland? And this tradition continues from parent to child to grandchild, and the Disney philosophy has been protected, it has been venerated, and has been defended over all others as a moral and spiritual authority in the home. I remember growing up, you know, Christian, we weren't allowed to watch R-rated movies. Things were vetted before we were allowed to consume them. And, you know, it was this way in a lot of, you know, Christian households that try to keep their children. But Disney has carte blanche. It comes right in. It already has the stamp of approval. It's supposed to be wholesome. It's supposed to be innocent fun. But it is anything but that. It is a crazy Trojan horse of demons, really. I don't know. I remember one of the first times I went to Orthodox church. It was so beautiful and it was so lovely inside, and I was like so at peace and happy just to look at the icons and look at the architecture and everything. All the robes, was everything that was happening was lovely. And then you look at the congregation, and the kids got like a big Cars backpack, and this one's got a Minnie Mouse sweater, and you know, it just reminds you that these things can seep in anywhere if we're not super vigilant. And most parents still don't realize how bad Disney is for their kids. Napoleon says, Dumbo makes you cry. It does make you cry. That Sweet Baby song, oh man, that's a tearjerker, right? For sure. And then probably next time we get done with this, next up is The Weird Life of Walt Disney. So we're going to continue with the Disney train next time after we're done talking about psychiatry. 80s Christians were right. Yeah. All the satanic panic Christians were right. It's true. So, yeah, in most households, Disney products have a carte blanche seal of approval as representatives of innocence, of imagination. And for many homes, even Christian homes, or especially Christian homes, a Disney movie is an integral part of family time. So as an icon of American culture and middle-class family values, it appeals to both parents and children's fantasies, while on the other hand working to transform every youth into a lifetime consumer of its products and ideals. And they've got you from, what is it called? From womb to tomb. You can be a Disney baby. And I put this little Mickey Mouse pacifier just to prove my point that as soon as you're born, they're shoving Disney in your mouth. Right? So from baby bottles to learning how to read, Disney is there to teach you at every stage in your life. And that is interesting because I did learn how to read when I was very small from See and Say books. Remember those? Like you get a little booklet and then you get a little record and you put your little record in the thing and it reads the book for you, and it says, turn the page when you hear this noise. And so you can read along with the record, and by doing that, I was reading probably way before kindergarten, maybe 3 or 4, just sitting in my room with Disney books and my little record See and Say, and being indoctrinated. I mean, being taught how to read, yes, but also being indoctrinated into the Disney philosophy. My favorite one of the See and Says was the 3 Little Pigs. That just popped back into my mind. And the wolf was so scary in that to me. It's funny to think about what scared you when you were a little kid. So you've got your Mickey Mouse baby bottles. So bottles, learning how to read. Disney that's there to teach you in every stage of your life. So it is pretty much the world's most beloved brand name, or was at the time of this publishing of this book. But now it's gone woke. It's going broke. Thank goodness. People are catching on. Parents trust their children to Disney, or they used to, so much so that the mouse had become America's most popular babysitter. I mean, who is not tempted to just put on Frozen and let the kids veg out for a minute so that the parents can get something done, right? Everybody needs help raising kids, and unfortunately, it's these VHS tapes that usually are the helpers. Kit had them too. Kit says, I loved my cassette tape book combos. Me too. So what is interesting about Disney with its like golden brand image, synonymous with childhood and wholesome entertainment, is that it did manage to deflect criticism at every turn. But the same name that produces television programs for kids, like I said, was also a major distributor of corn and adult pay-per-views. And also there is a serious PDF file problem at Disney theme parks. And the company seems uninterested in solving, but we'll get to that later. I have a whole stack. Every time I see somebody get in trouble at Disneyland, I print it out, and I have a whole, like, Trapper Keeper of Doom of just all of the creepers, not kid creepers, but people creeping on kids at Disneyland. You wouldn't believe it. Let me see if I can find that video about the kid disappearing into the floor. Now, this was recent. This was just like a couple weeks ago. Hold on. Here it is. Okay, I'm gonna play this for y'all.
I don't know what is going on at Disneyland, but these stories that have emerged in the last 4 days are something straight out of a nightmare. There are 2 separate stories that have taken place at Disney World in the last 4 days that are both very hellish and seem to show another side of Disney World. And one of these stories was on a completely different side of TikTok where everyone is speaking Spanish, so it literally took me 2 days to decipher what was going on. The other story was literally of a man losing his shit at Disney World, but the way that this man looks and his appearance gives a whole other story entirely. However, it seems that Disney is using one story to cover up the other. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of That's Insane with Aja. Today we're going to be talking about something that is going on in Disney World that has been unrevealing itself in the last 4 days. So this is the first story that was on a whole opposite side of TikTok about this 4-year-old child that was said to have gone missing at a Disney World theme park, and when her parents found her in the bathroom, what they saw was crazy in its entirety. Now, to be clear, that is not the actual young lady. That is just a representation of her that someone made to tell the story. This is said to be the actual 4-year-old child that her parents said let go to the bathroom by herself, and when they went to get her, they said they saw a tunnel opening in the restroom from the floor and their daughter was being taken. This is the original missing poster that people are sending around on the other side of TikTok, and apparently this young child's name is Audrey Elizabeth. The parents were asked to give a description of what they saw when this 4-year-old child went missing, and this is the description that they gave, and it was of a trap door in the floor or the wall that opened up and the child was behind. This is the video that is going around, and it's said to be a representation of what they saw, not the actual video. What is so crazy is that the mother asked the workers at Disneyland to break into the floor, and they denied to break ground to look for this child. Now, this is the video that people are saying is supposedly the mother talking to security, trying to get them to look for her daughter, and they will not look for her. I'm not sure if this is the real video, but again, if you understand Spanish or you hold and click translate, it translates to this being the mother that is of the missing 4-year-old child. Now, for those of you who are unaware about the tunnel system that runs through Disneyland for the characters to go through, because they don't want to ruin the fantasy and have multiple characters seen in different places, this is the actual tunnel system, so I don't deny anything happened. Next, there is this man that has gone rogue at Disney World, and there are multiple videos of him climbing into the actual props at Disney World in the water naked, and to me, it feels like a cover-up for the missing child. Because we all know when someone is on the forefront or a company is on the forefront, damage control is always to distract. However, this man looks so malnourished, confused, and he seems to be there alone, which is weird in itself because who goes to Disneyland with no family or no kids? So who's to say that this man was not being kept captive at Disney World and finally got free and started to do these bizarre things that I'm going to show you? This is the video of the man. You see him up there, literally on the Disney props. If you look at this man, he looks very confused and bewildered, as well as really, really small, which to me makes me think that he might be malnourished or he could just be extremely fit. Either way, the look in his eyes, he really does look terrified and unaware of what is going on, which does not make sense at a Disneyland theme park, considering people go there with the intention to see rides, have fun, see their favorite Disney characters, and they usually go in a group. So why is no one stopping this man, or why is he alone? Here is another video of the gentleman, and if you look at him, he looks very confused, and in this, he looks super skinny. There are his clothes, which are very dirty and tattered, so I'm unsure why he is there in the first place or where he came from. In my opinion, one or two things happened. He escaped from one of those tunnels under Disneyland, or he was put out there as a front to distract the media and people from what is really going on with that missing child. I don't know. What do you guys think? Thanks for tuning in to another episode.
Okay, so you got kids disappearing into the floor at Disneyland, you've got weird guys running around naked in It's a Small World. And yeah, you guys were making me laugh in the chat talking about, well, what just happened in New York City? What did they find? A bunch of tunnels under a, what is that called? A synagogue. So I'm going to leave the jokes to y'all about that. But yeah, lots of crazy stuff being discovered about Disneyland. I have a whole hour that we did on InfoWars about the connections between Walt Disney and the CIA and the Stanford Research Institute. Maybe I'll bring those cards out next time when we talk about Walt, just to get all of this stuff solidified in one place. But yeah, so Disneyland is a mass mind control programming mecca, and Epcot is even bigger. I think that's like the one place in the world that's visited the most. It was one time when I looked it up. What would be this like number one tourist destination in the world? I feel like it's Epcot. I don't know now, but one frightening thing about Disney is that it markets itself almost exclusively to children. And not since the height of the baby boomers have there been so many children here among us for corporate businesses to prey upon. And these kids come to represent the ultimate prize. So back in propaganda days, in the old-timey Bernays days, they were marketing to adults. And now they market to you straight out of the womb. So I'm thinking of, cartoon cereal commercials and cartoons and all of that. Like, they don't even need to make commercials really for adults. If you can make a bunch of commercials for kids, you've got them. And Tiny Mustache Man knows this, or he knew this. Anton LaVey knew this. All of the Dark Sorcerers know if you get a child under the age of 8, you can mold them into whatever kind of adult you want them to be. Yeah, Paul says, Jamie and I reviewed it in our second show. Yes, we did. What was that called? Weird Disney World? I think that's the name of it. So the children now are the powerhouse demographic to be scrutinized and to be advertised to at all costs. At the time of this book, the U.S. spent about $263 billion each year on advertising, and this was largely aimed at teaching kids to be consumers, to a point where some have called it a hostile takeover of childhood. I mean, even mainstream authors have a critique of how heavily children are marketed to today. And how do you think they even got all of this, like, Transformers stuff? It's because they're marketing to children. It's not adults that are deciding that they want to be different now. It's children. Why? Because they're hypnotized. They're under a spell. And they're being created. They're not growing up. So kids spend about $40 billion a year. And the amount of adult spending that children influence is an astronomical $700 billion a year. But that's not even as much as they just sent to Ukraine and Taiwan and Israel. So, kids and teens have become the epicenter of American consumer culture. Children today are being taught that you are what you own, and it doesn't take them long to figure out that you are supposed to buy products for status. There was a viral TikTok going around of a little girl with her Starbucks and her nails done, and she was talking like an adult, saying, Starbucks is better than Dunkin' Donuts, and she was clicking her little nails on the cup and swishing around her ice cubes just like an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old would be doing. So they are compressing youth, and they are trying to make children into little adults and little consuming adults and little mind-controlled adults. I mean, think about... Oh, we'll talk about that later. I'll get to there. Hold on. So... it's technically illegal to advertise to children under the age of 8. At both federal and state levels, the law requires that advertisers do not engage in deceptive or unfair marketing. I think Obama switched that, though. In the beginning of the 1980s, children's television advertising was deregulated, and the number of commercials aimed at them instantly doubled. Programs themselves became vehicles to sell toys. Exactly. So the cereal in the cartoon is this like feedback loop, and cereal is disgusting. It is so bad for you. Cheerios are poison. Please don't give Cheerios to your babies anymore. We've known this for quite some time, but now nobody believes me. Nobody believes Jay. Nobody believes us and our friends. But if it's on the news, then it must be true. But these things are leaking out to the mainstream. Cheerios have lead in them, which we've known forever. I mean, I've done the experiment where you can pick up a bag of Cheerios with a magnet. All of those cereals, it's not just high fructose corn syrup that is bad. It's GMO corn in there. It is a whole bunch of heavy metals. And then to add insult to injury, this week Kellogg's came out and said, oh, you can't afford groceries? Well, let's just try having cereal for dinner. So if you replace one of your healthy meals with cornflakes, then maybe we can all send some more money to the IRS, hopefully. Jethro says, Oreo's got the bioengineered label now. Yep. Exactly. So let's look and see if we've got some donuts. I do. I have one donut, $5. Daniel Flores, thank you for the stream. I feel like singing Salisbury Hill. It would be appreciated. God bless. Okay, how does that go? Peter Gabriel, Salisbury Hill for $5. Climbing up on Salisbury Hill, I could see the city lights. Wind was moving, time stood still. Eagle flew out of the night. Is that it? Yep. He was something to observe. Came in close, I heard a voice. Standing, stretching every nerve. Had to listen, had no choice. There you go. Is that worth $5? Thank you so much. And for reminding me that we love Peter Gabriel. Where are we? Advertising to kids. Eat cereal for breakfast. Ample science and various professionals agree that marketing to children is both deceptive and unfair because they do not have the cognitive capacity to understand that they are being marketed to. Children under 3 cannot even tell the difference between a commercial and the program that they are watching. They do not comprehend persuasive intent, which is the linchpin of advertising. I do have a couple of those old books I was going to bring in here, but maybe next time. One called The Hidden Persuaders, that's a classic. About subliminal messaging and just how subversive advertising is. So young children do not have the maturity, they don't display the brain activity associated with a kind of self-conscious awareness until after 6 years of age. So they spend their first years of their lives in a state referred to as a hypnagogic trance. This is the same state that hypnotists induce to implant suggestions directly into the subconscious mind. But in this brave new world of advertising, there is no such thing as too young. Here's a quote. The consumer embryo begins to develop during the first year of existence. Children begin their consumer journey in infancy, and they certainly deserve consideration as consumers at that time. This is from James McNeil, pioneering youth marketer advertiser. Ooh, I like all these donuts. What's going on? Sabrina, exactly. Taxation without representation. We are triple taxed. No one cares. That's what drives me crazy about what goes on social media and Twitter and what everyone's fighting about. It's like, why don't you grow up and start like looking at real things like the Fed and stop worrying about how much makeup women are wearing and like go learn how to build a fire, or stop sending money to the IRS. It's crazy. A lot of men be arguing about stupid crap. Who cares how much makeup people wear? Okay. So this generation, the not millennials, what came after that? Gen Z, marketed to like never before. There is a corporate brand logo in front of a child's face every second of the day. This is part of what they call the 360-degree immersive technique, where kids are literally inundated with advertising 24/7. And the advertiser's number one goal is to make parents absolutely miserable through what they call the nag factor. So they do this on purpose. They market to the child so that the child will like not stop begging the parent for what they have been advertised. And they make the parent absolutely miserable until they give in. And this is designed to maximize the number of times kids will keep asking for things. So according to a study from the University of Kansas Medical Center, children's brains are being branded before they even know how to read. They can recognize a corporate logo. Melissa's here. Finally. No, just kidding. Welcome. Glad you're here. We all love Melissa. Go check out her channel on YouTube, Trainer Melissa. And I promise we're going to do a show about Body Keeps a Score. I just left the book in Florida, so we'll be down there later on. So the study from Kansas Medical Center analyzed children's brains when being showed food logos. The areas of the brain controlling the rewards and appetite lit up when they were shown the logos, similarly to how they would if they were shown actual food. So children can identify a McDonald's arches even before they know what the letter M is. Every child, regardless of how young, is now a potential consumer ripe for being brainwashed into a commercial culture defined by brands. The biggest bucks are in brand loyalty for life. So this is exactly what Disney aims to do, is make you a consumer until you die. And a typical child will see about 40,000 ads a year on TV alone, and by the time they enter the 4th grade, they will have memorized 300 to 400 brands. So it's hard to find baby products that are unbranded. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. The monopoly of choice, the illusion of choice, the false dialectic. Like, you can choose, do you want Mickey Mouse pacifier or Donald Duck pacifier? Do you want this toxic diaper or that toxic diaper? Do you want this formula with lead in it, or do you want this baby formula with fluoride in it? Like, it's an illusion of choice. Slow Boy's here. What's up? Slow Boy says, I worked with some slow kids that were born addicted. They only knew shapes from a PlayStation controller. Yeah, that's sad. So this is, I don't know if this is like connected to autism and stuff. I'm thinking there's a correlation between screen time, consumer sugar, stabbies, neglect, and all these things. I feel like is what makes up a lot of autism, what we're seeing. You're gonna put in your earplugs when I sing? That's okay. That's fine. John Connor, what's up? Good to see you. Actually, John Connor, I'm going to give you something right now. Because you've given us so much over the years. 1 minute. I didn't mean to pin it. Here we go. I'm going to give you a wrench. John Connor. There you go. So babies know 400 brands before they can even read. It is hard to find baby products that are unbranded. The sorcerer's goal is to imprint the brands into the very fabric of the child's existence from birth so that there's no escape. We were talking about corporate logos in the very first episode, I think, called Zone Theory. How most corporate logos you can trace back to some kind of esoteric symbol, usually Freemasonry or solar worship, something like that. So this is what a little baby is absorbing at all times. There's no escape. It's disturbing to observe people covering themselves with brand names, considering the practice of branding came from the cattle industry, where they would burn the ranch owner's logo into the cow's backside with hot steel. That's what I think of every time people just like buy brands and they put these brands all branded. That's the name of that Russian movie we were talking about that one time where they were making tulpas. If you've never seen the movie Branded, go check that out. They were actually making thought forms and demons, demonic activity through branding, advertising, and fast food, just exactly what we're talking about. So it's even more disturbing that Disney and other advertisers now work with child psychologists. Well. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting to what Enraged told Candace, oh, I'm sorry, I got burps now from the Olipop. Candace Owen was up in arms about Freud. And yes, 2 weeks ago, we covered that when he was doing his talk therapy with children, there were so many stories of SA that he didn't know what to do with this information, and he decided that it must be the children making things up or that children have a seductive nature. So real gross stuff. Exactly, Technographics makes a great point. Social media influencers literally talk about themselves as a brand. So you're no longer a person that has, self-actualized through consuming. You are now yourself a brand. Everybody is some kind of peddler of their own personality. It's getting really weird. I never thought there would be this many influencers, podcasters, TikTokers. It's a phenomenon. So now they're working with child psychologists who study young people in order to better understand children's culture so they can develop marketing methods to be more streamlined and seductive. According to the New York Times, Disney is at the forefront of finding ways to capitalize on $50 billion spent worldwide by young boys between the ages of 6 and 14. As a part of the effort, it seeks the advice of educators, anthropologists, and even a research consultant with a background in the casino industry to study all aspects of the culture and intimate lives of young boys to produce emotional hooks that lure them into the wonderful world of corporate Disney and turn them into enthusiastic consumers. So this has now been whittled down into a science of ensnaring your child and capturing their imagination and using that imagineering to produce a world that we don't even recognize anymore. That is from April 2009 New York Times. So given Disney's desire to expand into boys' culture, the announcement in 2009 that it had purchased Marvel Entertainment Inc. came as no surprise. And what did they get? They got Marvel, they got Apple, they got Star Wars, Fox, I think, got rolled into Disney. Heavenly Me gives QAR $17.99. I don't know what that is. I like it. I don't know what it is, but I like it. What's a QAR? Is that, what kind of denomination is that? Ooh, Paul has a good point. He says, when the human person becomes obsolete in technocracy, we have to live in the nostalgic recreation of ourselves. In less words, we become our own idols through the black mirror. Whoa. Paul throwing down like super poignant, well thought out pearls of wisdom. I like it. Heavenly Me, my first ever super chat. Well, thank you so much. Where are you? QAR, where's that from? So yeah, Disney branched out with their absorbing other conglomerations, Marvel, one of them. Their comic book empire has about 5,000 superhero characters, and that's when you saw them really ramping up the superhero movies, right? Then the Wall Street Journal remarked that by bringing in macho types such as Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America, the Marvel deal would expand Disney's audience, adding properties that appeal to boys from their preteen years into young adulthood. As part of the same effort, in 2012, Disney announced that it had purchased Star Wars franchise. The video game Epic Mickey revamps the character of Mickey Mouse in an alleged effort to make him more appealing in today's generation of young men. Mickey will no longer embody a childlike innocence and generosity, but will instead be cantankerous and cunning and will exhibit selfish and destructive behavior. So they're even changing Mickey's personality. Ooh, Madison K, $10. Thank you so much. I'll give you a heart right back. And a thumbs up, babe. Thank you. Appreciate it. Qatar. Ooh, okay. So I got $17.99 Qatar bucks. Oh, yeah, and we talked about, so Mickey Mouse, I mean, duh, lab rats, right? The things that you put in mazes and you do experiments on. We also talked about that in the show Top 10 Evil Science Experiments. That you, when you put on your mouse ears and you go into the programming center known as a theme park, you're just a little rat in a maze. Something to be experimented on. So mega corporations, they focus on popular culture and constantly expand themselves to reach every available media outlet. Kids have become a captive audience to all forms of media through mobile phones, laptop, computers, and internet, and the impact of electronic technology as teaching machines can be seen in some astounding statistics. So now you can't even, like I said, I learned to read by Disney with technology. Now it's just an iPad or a Leapfrog or something like that, right? It is estimated that an average American spends more than 6 hours a day watching video-based entertainment. That's probably more by now. And in the future, the hours spent watching television and videos will match the numbers of hours spent sleeping. The greatest sacrifice associated with surrounding very young children with screen media is a reduction in the time they spent engaging in creative, unstructured play. Because of this, teachers across the world are reporting that all children's play is beginning to look identical. So this is almost 10 years ago now. Now, teachers are crying on TikTok because kids can't read, they can't pay attention, they're just wilding. They can't like sit down. They can't do anything. They're daily I see reports from teachers broken down in tears, wondering what the fate of our world is going to be because the kids can't do anything but twerk. So, yeah, because the children imitate what they see on screen, they are reenacting role scripts with licensed products, and that's exactly what Paul was talking about. They are not coming up with things from their imagination. They're just acting out things that they have already seen. They're taking on characteristics of cartoons and things that were written for them. And we all have seen that report of that Disney CEO who was like, we're going to make 50% of the characters Skittles now. Don't you think that's going to affect all the kids who play Frozen or Peter Pan or whoever they're playing right now? And if their favorite character is Skittles, they're going to want to be Skittles too. So their playtime is conscripted by a commercial world defined by the Disney company and a few other corporations, and the amount of time spent in this world is super frightening. So in 2000, Disney purchased the Baby Einstein Company, a line of products and toys known to mesmerize baby television watchers by displaying vibrant objects while playing a soundtrack of classical music. And yeah, like I said, when I was young, it was called a Fisher-Price 33 RPM record player with read-along books. And the books that I had were Lady and the Tramp, Snow White, Mother Goose, and Three Little Pigs. Now they have a handheld toy called Leapfrog, whose cartridges are dominated by Disney's characters, Star Wars, SpongeBob, and a few others. There is a thing called VTech, MobiGo, Leapfrog, and they all produce the exact same characters to play with. Why are all of these different media learning tools adopting Disney characters to put into their catalog? If they're different companies, why are they all using Disney, right? Baby Einstein. Baby Freud. Baby Bernays. Today's kids have more money to spend and more electronic toys to play with, but increasingly they're left to their own to navigate the virtual worlds created by corporations. Nowhere has it been proven that these types of games make children smarter. In fact, most statistics show that too much interface with electronics makes them antisocial and less intelligent. That is because we are not meant to be interacting with our world primarily through virtual reality and through screens and through phones and through iPads and through Black Mirrors, right? John Connor says, Young Money. Yep, I like it. That sounds like a rapper. Carl Young Money. Baby Young. Baby Freud. Let's check our donuts. Ooh, we got two. Okay. Varda for $10 says, will you share your 10 bands to know me? 10 bands? I don't know if I could think of... Okay. Does it have to be a band or can it be an artist? Because I like Peter Gabriel, I like Flaming Lips, I like so much stuff. I mean, music to me is just, it's a drug. You have to be careful with it. Let me think about the 10 bands. Did I say 3? It said Peter Gabriel, Flaming Lips. Who do I put on? I have so many 90s CDs. Seal was so good. I don't know, like, me and Jay have music night, and we just go all over the place. Like, we like so many different kinds of music, it's hard to pick. We go from country to classic to weird, like, Icelandic chanting people. Jay's top was Depeche Mode. Yeah, they're okay. Throw some out there and I'll tell you if they're in my top 10. Cringecore Eyes. Sade is good. Pink Floyd, sure, yeah. Dark Side of the Moon was pretty good. It's like, as a whole album, it was like really good. David Bowie. Anything but country. I like country and I like bluegrass, and well, because we live in Tennessee, so it becomes a part of you, like hearing the steel guitar and the banjo and those things. They morph from being corny to being soothing and beautiful somehow. I don't know how that happens, but you have to live in the South. So we are not meant to be experiencing the world through VR and screens and black mirrors. And the family unit is the human being's best defense against dark forces. However, the underlying morals of a corporation such as Disney can escape even the most vigilant and discerning parent. Your personal family values are being usurped by mega corporations, all towards a lifetime of constant, unthinking consumption, where there can only be one kind of value, market value, and one kind of success, and that is profit. They are trying to convince children that life is all about buying, and it is clear that Disney's goal is to win over the hearts and minds of children, to deliver them to the system as just commodities and loyal consumers. How many of you have seen that little girls now all want a Stanley Cup? Why do little girls all think that having a Stanley tumbler, like, mug is the coolest? I mean, little girls, not teen girls, not mean girls, not tween girls, little girls trying to go to Starbucks and go to school with their Stanley Cup. It's crazy. I'm so glad I was homeschooled, y'all. I don't even know. I wouldn't have survived it. I kind of just go through like phases of like songs that I like, and I'll just play it over and over. Like right now, I'm really digging a band called I Don't Know How, But They Found Me. It's pretty good. I like it. So now we have produced our little baby consumers. We've got them begging, nagging parents, spending all the money on useless plastic crap. And where does all that come from? China. It comes from China. Real John Connor says, every 40-year-old woman at my office is screeching for a Stanley Cup. I don't get it. What is... I mean, I know because they're hypnotized in a spell, but just looking at it from a normie perspective, I don't know what is the big deal about these cups. So yeah, all of this stuff is being mass-produced, plastic, a lot of it's poisonous, from China. And even Anton LaVey said that when things become precious and people expendable, that is the horror of the true satanic society. That is when the nightmare begins. And so let's talk about the toy makers for a second, because I had an epiphany when I was walking down the aisles of Target one time. And this was way before Target even became like a mecca for basic bitches. This was like 2009. Before all the Skittles marketing and all that at Target, I was walking down the aisles, and the girl aisle was pink poofy princess. The entire 2 or 3 aisles dedicated to toys for girls. was Pink Poopy Princess, and the entire aisle dedicated for things for boys was very warrior-like toys, very super ramped up, militarized, like, you know what I'm talking about. It's just super aggressive, really. And I was talking about Princess Warrior programming, and I even took a photo of the two aisles at Target, because it was just such a stark realization that this whole entire thing is mind control and programming. And now the toys are even worse. Like, what the hell, you guys? Monster High, Lol dolls. Have you even seen? I remember when Bratz was a thing. Bratz dolls, and they look like baby sex workers, right? And it just got worse from there. And so now it's like Rainbow High. What do you think that is supposed to be? Obviously. So we went from Bratz to Monster High to Rainbow High and whatever else, like, gross dollies that they're making. But who is making all this stuff that you see in the commercials? I'll give you a hint. It's not Santa's elves. But they are short. So turn over pretty much any piece of cartoon merchandise and it will say made in China. So roughly 75% of all toys come from China, and chances are they were made in a sweatshop by a child. Most factories in China where toys are produced are surrounded by prison-like walls and barbed wire. Living and working conditions are so grim, one Chinese company called Foxconn, a manufacturer of Apple computers, iPhones, Sony, Nintendo, and HP products, actually had to install safety nets to the sides of their buildings to catch up potential suicide jumpers. And that's true. So I put this picture in of these poor young girls who were making these sweatshop toys, and they don't even get a break. Sometimes they can't even go home. They just have to, like, nap at their desk. Like, it's crazy. Nap at their station, their slave station. So in October 2012, a mother from Oregon opened her box of Halloween decorations purchased at Kmart, and there was a letter tucked in between two styrofoam headstones. It was a cry for help that had traveled more than 5,000 miles over the Pacific Ocean. The short note was written in Chinese and English. The letter read, "If you occasionally buy this product, please kindly resend this letter to the World Human Rights Organization. Thousands of people here who are under the persecution of the CCP will thank and remember you forever. People who work here have to work 15 hours a day without Saturday, Sunday break, and any holidays. Otherwise, they will suffer torturement, beat, and rude." English is their second language. Torturement, beat, and rude remark. Nearly no payment, 10 won a month. 10 won is like $1.60 in 2012. People who work here suffer punishment 1 to 3 years averagely, but without court sentence, unlaw punishment. Many of them are full-on gong practitioners who are totally innocent people only because they have different beliefs to CCPG. They often suffer more punishment than others. This letter was not signed. So that is so crazy, like a message in a bottle, basically, or in between some. It's kind of interesting that it came from, or it came to Kmart in their Halloween decorations, and she found the note between two headstones. But yeah, slaves making poison and crap for other slaves. This is how it's going. The whole world is an enslavement factory. So these Chinese children, they work 7 days a week at a factory producing dogs and dolls for Disney. The shift starts at 6:30 in the morning and doesn't end until midnight. Overtime work can go from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. Most days, workers are encouraged just to put their heads down at their stations and to sleep sitting up so they'll be ready to start back at work at 6 a.m. The plastic material that the toys are made of can reach 200 degrees Celsius. The environment is so hot they don't call them sweatshops for nothing. And so that nasty piece of plastic that was made by a poor child labor slave gets put in your Happy Meal box full of GMO Frankenfood poison that doesn't rot. And what, if the child is young enough, where is that little piece of plastic? It's going straight in their mouth. And they're just sucking on these BPA chemicals. Someone says, Jamie, Bamey, Fee, Fi, Fo, Famey. Kneeling foos with debase streams. Thank you. That's poetic. Thanks. Checking for donuts. Got some. Oh, Melissa, thank you. That was very kind of you. Melissa sends 10 donuts saying, looking forward to Hollywood March 15th. Let's go. Oh, yeah. So if anybody lives in Southern California or you're going to be there around March 15th, we are doing a live show again with Jamie Kennedy just because it was so fun last time. It's a hoot and a holler. It's a comedic presentation by Jay, and then it is a live presentation by me, a PowerPoint. Things you've never heard. I've never said them on a stream. I've never heard anyone else say these things or put this information together quite in this particular order before, so it is exclusive for live events only, and I like to keep it that way so you get your money's worth. But yeah, Melissa, tell us in the chat how much fun these things are, and they're just so much fun to like meet people, and who knows, you could meet your future paramour. Lots of not hookups happen, but love connections happen at our live shows. We are responsible for at least 2 weddings. So you never know. Come see us in Hollywood on March 15th. The tickets are posted on my Twitter, on the pin post, and also on the top of Jay's account as well. So the face of the Disney manufacturer is not a pretty one. Their licensees and manufacturing countries few Americans could even locate on a map. Ooh, I got $4.99. Jethro, thank you. Hoping Papa Ewok AJ will invite you and JD down to host in studio this week. Oh, that will be fun. Is there a specific reason why this week? I mean, we have an open invitation anytime we want to go. Anytime we're in Austin, we stop by InfoWars and host. Yeah, go to the show and meet your spouse. Exactly. I want to see some babies, some cute little babies born from people that met at our show. So all of this crap is coming from places that people couldn't even find on a map. In Burma, children's work goes to 60 hours a week in a factory run by drug lords for 6 cents an hour to produce Mickey Mouse sweatshirts. Those who track child labor sweatshops know that Disney is a prime exploiter and one of the worst offenders. And you know who else? Pop stars. All your fragrances and all your stupid Roca-ware, they're the worst for paying their overseas workers. Bill Hicks says, Jamie, you guys gonna come to Australia again? Come to Adelaide if you do. Maybe. Maybe if Jay agrees to fly on a plane for 24 hours or however long it takes to get there. That's the only thing standing in our way. So, all too often, Disney's clothes, toys, and trinkets are made by children. The National Labor Committee in New York gives Disney the distinction as being one of the greediest sweatshop abusers in the world. At assembly factories owned by Disney suppliers in Haiti, workers toil in tropical heat to meet production quotas for Mickey Mouse and Lion King garments. Minimum wage is about $2.40 a day, but most factory laborers rarely make that much because they are based on production quotas. Workers must attach 1,600 collars to t-shirts a day. That's about 3 a minute. The pressure to make the quota is intense, and even trips to the restroom may elicit screams and threats from management. At another factory in Haiti, workers produce a clothing line called Classic Apparel, which is a subsidiary of Disney, where a typical pay stub is about a quarter an hour. Working conditions are as horrible as one can imagine. The air is heavy with lint from garments, which makes it hard to breathe. Rats are everywhere, and drinking water can be found next to the toilet. The people who are making corporate products are living in utter misery. So think about that next time you want to go to Disneyland and buy your little mouse ears and your Little Mermaid t-shirt or whatever stupid merchandise junk you want to get. Who is making this stuff? Slaves are. Slaves creating products to enslave other people. It's just this. It's a crazy cycle. I mean, did you ever wonder where all that pink princess crap comes from? The princess paraphernalia? Jamie says the word abyss for $5. Jason Scholl, thank you. Did I say the word abyss? Yeah, where does all this pink princess crap come from? The global revenue generated by Disney princess products increased from $300 million in 2000 to $4 billion in 2009. So in 9 years, it went from 300 million to 4 billion. It does come from girls, but they're definitely not given the royal treatment. So little girls are making all of your princess crap in the factory that produces your toys. They are exploiting underage children. Their workforce is probably made up of over 90% women because according to Chinese foremen, they are easy to manage. There are young girls operating machines that only a grown man has the strength to operate. At one factory in Vietnam that produces Disney products, more than 90% of the 1,800 workers are teenage girls, about the same age as your typical Disney heroine. Their home pay is 60 to 70 cents a day for a 9 or 10 hour shift. A 7-day work week is often mandatory, and managers inflict corporal punishment for misbehavior. Girls who remain working at the factory too long face serious health problems. Dozens of workers collapse daily from exhaustion and food deprivation. Toxic fumes like acetone cause headaches, dizziness, nausea, skin damage, and affected menstrual cycles. In the plastic department, workers often lose half their right palms and all of their fingers when operating dyeing machines. In some cases, girls have their hands being eaten away by chemical solvents. They must inhale paint fumes all day without masks, and these toys go right into your Happy Meal. Not happy. Yeah, and The Mandalorian. Yeah, that's a new one, isn't it? So all of these mass-produced toys are just propaganda. Sophisticated mind control. What do we got here in this photo? We talked about Bratz. Live doll? I don't remember. Those look creepy as hell. Novi stars. Okay, so even the dollies are taking on trans species looking. That's going to be the newest thing. Mark my words, okay? Look up Therions on TikTok. Now, it's cool to be an animal, be a beast, and Therion is, a Greek word for beast, and it was also a name that Aleister Crowley gave himself to Omega Therion, and it is the newest. We're past witch talk now. I want Jay to do a show on these Therion kids who think that they are animals. So in the past, children's consumer culture wasn't as sophisticated as it is today. Kids didn't have money to buy things, and there wasn't much for them to buy. The only mass-produced toys available were tiny things like wooden guns and dolls and maybe the occasional penny candy. So way back in old-timey times, we didn't have no Monster High, we didn't have no Bratz dolls, we have no Star Wars, nothing like that. They had, what is that dumb, that's the dumbest ass toy, like a little cup with a ball on a string, and you try to like get the ball in the cup. That's what I'm thinking of, like back in old times. This is like what kids are playing with. Jamie, are you talking about furries? It is like in the category of furries, but they call themselves therions. So yes and no. It's worse. Chat's cracking me up right now. So the only mass-produced toys were like wooden guns, the cup with the ball, maybe some jacks or something, playing jacks. But in 1932, the Walt Disney Studio was suffering from a serious lack of cash flow when a big opportunity came along. So here we've got Disney in the mix again. A merchandiser from New York named George Borgfeldt wanted to give his children Mickey and Minnie Mouse dolls for Christmas. He licensed the Mickey image from Disney, and from the moment the merchandise became available, it sold out super quickly. An international comic strip made Mickey Mouse a familiar face in every part of the world. By 1933, more than 80 major corporations, including General Foods, RCA, and National Dairy, were selling millions of dollars worth of Disney-related merchandise. So because of this wild success, Walt formed an in-house marketing division that eventually became the largest and most successful studio merchandising operation in the world. And by 1932, Mickey Mouse fan clubs had an enrollment of more than 1 million members, with new clubs opening all the time. The fashionable elite promoted Disney's cartoons and especially merchandise in every way. In 1935, the Queen of England and the Duchess of York selected Mickey Mouse Chinaware as gifts for 600 children. Creepy AF, man. I don't want no Mickey Mouse China from Queen of England. Disney rocked the toy merchandise market as soon had a monopoly on children's books as well. When the publishing houses first established separate children's sections around 1920, there was an increase in the production of children's books. The 1930s and 40s saw some decline in sales, and it was during this time period, in 1932, the Western Printing and Lithographing Company, the largest publisher of children's books in the world, entered into an exclusive contract with Walt Disney Inc. to produce his books. Now, who can we think of that had the monopoly on textbooks for a long, long time? Anybody? Pop quiz. Who was responsible for most of the science textbooks that they use in universities and high schools for the longest time? I wish I could hand out prizes. That'd be fun. If I could just throw candies at you and donuts, that would be fun. You can throw donuts at me, but I can't throw them at you. It's not fair. So Disney got into the children's books business, increased significantly as the baby boom market increased interest in children's reading, and federal aid was made available for library materials. And that's another thing, what happened to the boomers. I'm going to do a show called that after I read this Crowley book that I have. But yeah, what happened to the boomers also is Disney. Who got it? Anybody? Yes, old Ghislaine Maxwell's dad. That's it. Old Jep Stein McEffrey's girlfriend, her father, and their company. Yes. came out with all of the textbooks that we would use. Which Crowley book? What's it called? I'll have to look. I'll answer your question in a little bit if it comes back to my mind. It's not a Crowley book, it's a book about Crowley. About the generation of people that were influenced by the popular culture that was influenced by Aleister Crowley. That's what it's about. So these children's toys and books are not just innocent aids to the imagination. These things serve a purpose in brainwashing and engineering what kind of adults they will turn out to be. Part of the early psychology of marketing toys to children is called gender differentiation, where they don't just target kids as a group. They are soon segregated into boys and girls. I don't know if they're still like doing this now, because the goal is androgyny now, not princess warrior. The princess warrior is what drove the capitalism of, say 2000 to 2020, until it got very androgen. So, not long ago, babies' clothes and products were unisex. Well, for babies, I mean, like, you don't differentiate between, like, a girl's pacifier and a boy's pacifier. But now, it used to be children, before puberty, they were allowed to exist without gender issues, right? But now, the gender issues are being pushed on them before puberty. And back in 2012, you could visit the toy section of your Walmart or your Target, and you would have found that the aisles are segregated into boys and girls toys. And the underlying message about gender that they were sending and the role models laid out for youth can be reduced into two basic archetypes. Back then, I said the two basic archetypes were G.I. Joe and Barbie. The girls' aisle was primarily pink and studded with bling. For the very young girls, it's all about baby dolls and tiny furry animals, which is kind of a sorry substitute for letting your nurturing girl keep real plants and animals. But if they are not into the stuffed dolls, there's a variety of... This is funny. For girls, toy vacuums, toy cleaning supplies, toy ironing boards, and brooms and dustpans. All in pink, of course. I mean, there's nothing wrong with women doing domestic things in their own household, but just it seems sort of, I don't know, subversive to make a toy vacuum and a toy ironing board and a toy broom. It's just... That's why I don't dust the bookshelf, because I didn't have any toy feather dusters growing up. No pink sparkly, bedazzled household cleaning products. They also had a range of fake beauty products. They had salon chairs and makeup tables. For little girls, the next group of toys focused primarily on the princess. So for like toddlers to awareness, it was all about cleaning supplies and dollies and plastic animals. And then makeup tables, the next group of toys focused primarily on the princess. So y'all remember back in 2000s, it was all about tiaras, jewelry, and weird, like, tawdry costumes were dominating. Any type of art and craft was about appearance. Either hair, makeup, nails, or plastic jewelry. Almost every doll in this group was a little demented. Brands like hypersexualized Bratz dolls and Novi stars look like a type of alien-human hybrid. In some stores, mega brands like Disney Princess and Barbie have a giant pop-out marquee over the aisles, so you'll be sure to know who is controlling your thoughts. I don't think these toy manufacturers are just trying to make good little wives and mothers. I think it's more subversive than that. And it's obvious that in this context, pink means what you look like determines your value. The young girls were taught to only be sexy and alluring or useful in chores and preparing food. Girls who haven't gone through puberty but still want to act slutty can now call themselves a tween, meaning in between child and teen. Due to the marketing strategy of age compression, the bottom end of a tween can go as low as 6 years old. So that's what I was talking about when I was talking about the little girl with her Starbucks and her nails and clicking her nails on the Starbucks like an adult woman. It's because of age compression and making up these like categories for girls. I have a whole spread about how misogyny is real in marketing, so don't even come for me. I'm not a feminist, but we're going to talk about how wrong this is. All of these ads, these old-timey ads straight from Madison Avenue, making girls into some sort of commodity and subservient. So here, let's just look at this one. If your husband ever finds out you're not store testing for fresher coffee. So here's a coffee ad. And here's a man spanking his wife because he didn't like the coffee. Okay. I don't even know what this ad is, but it's a lady with a tiger rug body and the man is standing right on her head. Okay. This ad is for broomsticks. I don't even know what that is. The game is broomsticks, but it's all of these fully clothed men fighting over a naked lady, right? And then here's one. Show her it's a man's world, and she's literally like on the floor serving him breakfast in bed, like a weird simping lady. It's just weird. Creepy ads. Thank you, Pano. It is creepy. Oh, here's one. Blow in her face and she'll follow you anywhere. A cigarette ad right there. So these are sexual. They're degrading. They're embarrassing. They are in poor taste. They're not funny at all. And they are misogynistic. So, remember Barbie? The Barbie movie, the biggest movie of the year last year. So when the Barbie doll was introduced, her target audience was 9 to 12-year-olds. Today, it's 3 to 7. One of the most common criticisms of Barbie is that she promotes an unrealistic idea of a body image for a young girl. In 1963, the outfit Barbie Babysits came with a fake book entitled How to Lose Weight, which didn't open, and on the back it simply said, "Don't eat." The same book was included in another ensemble called Slumber Party, along with a pink bathroom scale permanently set at 110 pounds. So at 5'9" tall, Barbie, weighing 110 pounds, she would have a body mass index of 16.24 and fit the weight criteria for women with anorexia. She would lack the minimum 17 to 22% body fat required for a girl to even menstruate. So Barbie is so skinny, she can't even have a period. Yes, exactly. Okay. He says something, or she, I don't know. Okay, what are you? Okay says something Don Draper would come up with. Exactly. These Madison Avenue creeps and weirdos and preverts making all of these ads debasing women and then trying to sell them Barbie dolls. And in the corporate toy world, there is only one game for girls to play, and that is the game of seduction. It's not about femininity. It's not about homemaking. It's not about serving your family or being a good wife. It is about subservience and seduction. And we talked about this on the show with Rachel, the inventor of the Barbie doll, who actually was in the Barbie movie, Ruth Handler, the president of the toy manufacturer Mattel. She took the idea from a German corn doll, which was a gag gift for men, called the Bild Lily doll. And Lily was based on a comic strip character in an early German smutty tabloid called Bild. She was a sassy and provocative cartoon who hinted at taking money from rich old men for sexual favors. This was the model that Mattel took back to Los Angeles, renamed Barbie, and sold her as the all-American girl. The boys' aisle is primarily blue. So let's talk about boys for a second. And all the toys are themed with manliness, aggression, automobiles, machinery, warfare, and domination. Superheroes, cars, and sports. What else could a man need? Right? Yeah, Real John Connor says, Jamie, her last name is friggin' Handler, like she's a plant. Exactly. So boys, back then, boys were conditioned to be tough and aggressive, while girls are taught to be submissive and shallow. This can be seen in so many advertisements when you know what you're looking for. The males will always be in a dominant position or active. The girls will be in a passive or subservient state, or literally placed under the boy, or even many boys. In many ads, the female is literally dehumanized. That's what I'm talking about. These women aren't even human anymore. They're rugs to step on. The unconscious portion of the brain is highly sensitive to dissonant elements in a picture which do not add up logically or which violate cultural taboos. They show reproductive behavior, sex, and death. Who is more sexist, ads from the past or present? So I showed you all of these ads from the past, the Mad Men era. But look at these newish ads. So these are about 10, 15 years old. Here we've got sandwich incoming, just like phallus into her mouth. We've got look good is all you do, with a sad looking girl with a black eye sitting on a couch and an angry looking 50 Shades of Grey man standing over her. I don't even know what this is for. Here is maybe shoes or bags. I don't know, he's stepping right on her throat. You've got a guy doing sexy times with a girl, but in place of her head is a magazine with a car in it. Right? So that is how dehumanizing the advertising industry is towards all people, yes, but specifically in this case, women. Here we have Dolce & Gabbana, several men hovering over a girl, and then you just have this, like, poor girl with no clothes on. She is an object, just like a shoes or handbags or sunglasses or whatever. She's just a depersonalized naked body, right? What do y'all think of these ads? You like them? So back when they wanted a little aggression in their boys, now they don't. That's why I laugh when people are like talking about communism, and I'm like, I really don't think y'all have the work ethic or the testosterone to like create the types of camps and gulags it's going to take to subdue everybody. Like, it's just not going to happen. So the boys, the G.I. Joe Barbie Princess Warrior programming. The boys' toys focus primarily on the use of battle images, power, and violence as entertainment. I'm not saying masculinity is toxic, but I'm saying warfare and all this is all just propaganda to create this certain type of person. And this is perfectly explained in the movie Holy Mountain. I'm not recommending that you watch that, but there is a very poignant vignette in there about the toy makers who are recruited by the military industrial complex to make toys for the new generation of soldiers to perpetuate the military industrial complex. For instance, if they know that they want to go to war with, say, Cuba in 20 years, they'll call up Ruth Handler at Mattel and say, we want our villains and our bad guys to be Cuban, or in real life it would be, like Arabic or something like that, like Islam, like whoever they want to go to war with in the future, they're going to make the villains to the children 20 years even before that. 1973 Holy Mountain, yeah. Alejandro Jordan. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Jablonski. Good one, Dr. Crispy. Yeah. So boys' toys focused on battle, power, violence. These were also dominated by a few mega brand names like Star Wars and Marvel. Boys were inundated with the idea that they are the masters of the universe through violence. Young boys used to be able to build things from their imagination out of Legos or erector sets. Now you can only buy Legos systems, which feature the toys mostly built already and based on the same themes and characters as the rest of the toys. So you can't even buy the proper Legos to create something that you yourself thought of. They're only Lego systems that feature the characters from Disney or Marvel or whatever else that you've been, inundated with your entire life since you were born. Dr. Crispy's, thanks, Jamie. You're welcome. Let's see if we everybody make it rain donuts in the chat. Just send me some pink. I heard donuts were orthodox. Did y'all hear that one? Somebody said donuts with icing and sprinkles were orthodox. I didn't look at why, but I just thought that was funny. So there was only one game for boys to play back then, about 10, 15 years ago, and that was the game of war. So while the company Mattel could barely keep up with the demand for Barbie dolls in the 60s, its competitor Hasbro realized the market had no counterpart for boys. The answer was G.I. Joe, and his name was shorthand symbol for the typical serviceman government issue Joe. In 1963, Hasbro began a development on a military-themed line of dolls that, like Barbie, could be accessorized with different outfits and equipment, and the original strategy called for a different figure for each branch of the military, but then they just settled on G.I. Joe. Ooh! Thanks, guys. The donuts cheer me up. I like it. G.I. Joe, real American hero. G.I. Joe. Jay did a great talk in England about this stuff, and G.I. Joe came up. Look up Jay Dyer AV9 and his live presentation about that, and there was like so much about G.I. Joe. It was really good. Obviously, G.I. Joe has a lot of esoteric things in it too, with like Cobra Commander and like really elaborate plot lines, and that are like way over the heads of kids, but if you watch G.I. Joe as an adult, it's kind of a trip. G.I. Joe. So in the toy department, the sorcerers They use this occult technique called flashing colors. I don't know if y'all have heard of this. It's something that Anton LaVey has talked about. It's something that they talk about in Monarch Mind Control. But the flashing colors, they use opposite colors of the spectrum to produce a strobe or hypnotic effect. By using the opposites of the color frequencies of pink, which is red, and blue, it works as a type of frequency control. We have seen the posters advertising films take a decided shift in hue towards two specific colors, orange and blue. In fact, many new posters rely almost exclusively on these two hues, leaving little but details to the other colors. I have some examples here. So here's an example of the flashing colors, the orange and blue. So now when you look at movie posters, look how many have these two opposite colors on them. So they do something to your brain. They keep it constantly swinging back and forth between left, right, and masculine, feminine hemispheres, and never allowing it to be in balance. You can see the evidence in the color choices for political parties, national flags, sports teams, and police cars. They want to control the way the two sides of the brain communicate with each other, so they secretly talk to the right brain through the symbolism and subliminal message, while the person is only conscious of their left brain activity, which is the physical view of the world. In Masonry, the black and white checkerboard floor of the house represents duality or base consciousness and not understanding your spiritual nature. Look at this Mickey and Minnie ad. It's not a Disney ad, but it's an ad for Grand Rapids milk. And it's kind of sus. It says, Minnie goes, "Outside of you, Mickey, that milk is the best thing in the world." And he says, "Inside of you, Minnie, my milk is the best thing in the world." So, I mean, it's borderline. If you have a dirty mind, which a lot of these guys do, and I've seen videos of animators, they just draw like a dick and balls and then they draw the cartoon around it, or they draw boobs and butt and then they make it an animal or something, and this is what they put on kids' cartoons. So it starts off as a phallus or something dirty, and then they give it ears and they give it a little funny face, and then like, so it's it's a subliminal thing. So, let's see. Psychoanalyzing kids, labeling them, differentiating them, separating them apart. It's a part of the alchemical process. It is a strategy of the sorcerers. So in the 60s, everyone was united in the war against Vietnam. People of every rank, file, and persuasion, like professors, students, veterans, hippies, blacks, whites, all came together. They all had a singular motivation. They were a unified front against the war, and they were actually kind of making a little bit of progress, however you want to view that. But for the social engineers, this created a problem, and the answer was more segregation. So then they had to bring in groups like Black Panthers and various women's rights and gay rights groups, where they established to divide the people and get them fighting against each other for their own rights, so that the effort against the war slowly died out. So they didn't want people uniting as Americans against and like actually, downvoting something like a war in Vietnam. So then they had to roll in, what about black people? What about women? What about handicapped people? What about gay people? What about this? And so it all, like, the identity politics just like fractured everybody, so that they're all just arguing for their own self. So we talked about Holy Mountain. Yeah, you were showed in that movie an artistic way how toys are manufactured to impose a certain carefully planned agenda. And they are talking about the planet Saturn in the Holy Mountain. And we talked about Saturn last time in the Super Bowl show, right? in this part of the movie, they say, "My name is Cell and my planet is Saturn," and a clown rides through the streets on an elephant, followed by an angel and a group of tiny Santas handing out treats to all the boys and girls. When the parade arrives at the toy factory, the clown is revealed to be a stern businesswoman. She says, "We manufacture war toys. We have an electronic computer program with the politics of the government. The government is our client. We feed the computer data on coming wars and revolutions. It tells us what kind of toys to produce. To condition children from birth, for 15 years in advance, we condition the children to hate the future enemy. These children will go off to war and kill with pleasure." Again, I'm not recommending you watch that, but it's very telling. It's a movie about ritual magic. And actually, the end of it is kind of interesting because they never reach the Holy Mountain, because that in itself is a fantasy. Rachel's here. Now we can start. Party started. What's up, Rachel? We're talking about Princess Warrior programming. We're talking about G.I. Joe versus Barbie. We're talking about domestic programming versus seduction programming. We were talking about all of these ads that show violence towards women and misogyny. Rachel likes my hair. Oh, thank you. What else are we talking about? Almost done, actually. Let me check my donuts. Climbing up on Salisbury Hill. We looked at all the weird ads. Yeah, maybe you can find some more and send them to me on Twitter, and we'll make a thread. Like, these ads are like effed up. They're really bad. Talk about Holy Mountain. Okay, so the heavy production of war-themed toys and games began just before World War II. Hundreds and thousands of toys of a military nature, like the board game Sink the Invader, were quietly introduced by manufacturers and publishers to promote political agendas and instill fear. They were produced well before U.S. entry into the war. Games like Blackout, today's Game of Thrills, and the Game of Intrigue quite accurately predicted all the major combatants that made up the Allies and the Axis powers. What? One toy maker named Keystone called his line of doll houses the homes worth defending. Little girls keep house while the little boys defend their families, with military equipment illustrated. So during the war, manufacturers like Milton Bradley produced games like Fighting Marines, Bataan, and Battle of the Tanks. Games they said were as timely as tomorrow's headline. So can you all see how this programming from birth to death is just sorting you guys out into different types of widgets and tools for them to play with, just like you would play with your little green men. That's what they're doing to boys. They're just cannon fodder. Toys and games of a military theme were just as popular with the children of our enemies over in Europe as they were here. So it's not just here. They're also villainizing with propaganda to the children anti-American things. Their approach was actually quite similar, only the targets and planes were different. German children had a huge range of war games to choose from in the 30s and through the war years. Some were even tied to Tiny Mustache Man youth activities, including games like Tanks Forward, Bombs Over England, and the new game of our U-boat service. So here are some of these old games. Blackout Kit, war game. And this one, 1938, Gum Inc. began including a graphic Horrors of War card in their penny gum packets. The series of 288 cards covered scenes from various wars. So all of the toys for boys were geared towards serving in the military. So today's economy is not driven by unconscious desires. It's not driven by conscious desires. It's not driven by the quest for self-expression. Now, warfare is defined as the ultimate capitalist enterprise, and the United States of America's economy is a war economy. Okay, I'm sorry. Hate to break it to you. It's a military-industrial complex. We're never going to stop having wars because that's what our economy is built on. Starting or fostering wars is great business, and the 1940s marked the start of the era of systemic wars for profit. The extraordinary efforts of citizens during that time turned the United States into a giant global arms factory. We're going to cover that when we talk about the propaganda, military cartoons, Disney's World of Warcraft. Maybe in like 2 or 3 weeks. Okay. So this is what got us out of the Great Depression. It was credited as the main factor in ending the Great Depression. World War II was. The boys go off to war to subdue other countries so that the girls can afford to buy things from the slaves that those wars have created. Like we talked about sweatshops in China, sweatshops in Haiti, sweatshops in Taiwan. All of these poor little young children making toys to mind control children of the West. So the heart of today's economy is driven by when I wrote this, was driven by the consumer princess and the bloodthirsty warrior. So when the war ended in 1945, reports began to come out about the concentration camps and the horrors and bloodlust that contributed to the Nazi mentality. The German people were discriminated against and demoralized by the rest of the world for allowing such things to happen. Because of its consumerism and overseas aggression, America is said to be the next target of degradation globally. So did I nail this one on the head or what? I mean, is the West not great Satan right now to the rest of the world? It is. So because of its consumerism and overseas aggression, America is set to be the next target. You may begin to see more and more anti-American propaganda and the systematic vilification of the war-mongering United States. So that was pretty prophetic of me. And let's just read some weird stuff about the mega corporation of Walmart, and then we can be almost done. So, do we have check-in for donuts? Check-in for song requests. It's your last chance. If you want to hear me sing something badly. This is really weird. How many times can Walmart accidentally decide to build their stores over sacred Indian burial grounds? You remember Poltergeist? And all of the trouble that came out of the television and kidnapped the little girl, and took her into the other netherworld. Ow. Paper cut. It was because they had built their housing development over Indian burial ground. But Walmart does this in real life. So there have been numerous cases involving destruction of the Native American burial grounds and other culturally significant sites by Walmart. And it almost seems like they go out of their way to do this. In the mid-90s, developer JDN was involved in the relocation of numerous native graves while building a store in Canton, Georgia. The store set up a permanent display of unearthed Indian artifacts next to its layaway counter. When an Indian burial ground was discovered during construction of a Walmart supercenter in Northern California, the company proceeded with the project anyway, opening the store in 2007. To make up for the site's desecration, the store erected a bronze statue of a native Wintu feather dancer that was vandalized before the dedication ceremony. In 2004, Walmart opened a store in Mexico within the view of a 2,000-year-old pyramids of Teotihuacan despite months of protests by local residents as well as prominent Mexican artists and intellectuals. When they were building a Sam's Club and Walmart Supercenter in Hawaii, they unearthed 64 native Hawaiian graves. For at least 3 years afterwards, the bones remained locked in a trailer awaiting reburial. There are many other cases where Walmart would have disturbed sacred sites but were dissuaded by protests. So it seems like Walmart is trying to put its stores on ancient Indian burial grounds because I think that, they want their shit to be haunted, and all of this crap that they sell to you, I think it just adds to the occult power of it. What do you guys think? Is Walmart pretty evil or what? I have 2 more things. I have a quote by Plato. And a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. And the sources that we looked at in this chapter, a book called Disney, the Mouse Betrayed by Peter and Rochelle Schweitzer. The Elixir and the Stone by Michael Bajan and Richard Lee. Toys Go to War by Jack Matthews. Walt Disney Hollywood's Dark Prince by Mark Elliott. And again, the movies were Century of the Self, Consuming Kids, Santa's Workshop Inside China's Slave Labor and Toy Factories. And also a presentation by Mark Passio from Free Your Mind Conference 2011. So, Christian sent $5. Thank you. Neat topic, positive chat, cute little braids. Happy to contribute and be here live. Thank you for coming live. These are really fun. Thank you for your quality content. You're welcome. We're the tip of the spear, babe. Tip of the spear. Candace Owen has caught up to us 20 years ago. So, if you watch Daily Wire in 2040, they might be talking about this stuff. So, Plato, in 340 BC, says, "And shall we just carelessly allow children to hear any casual tale which may be devised by casual persons, and to receive into their minds ideas for the most part the very opposite of those which we should wish them to have when they are grown up? We cannot." So even Plato warns about propagandizing little children, marketing the little children, consuming kids, consumer kids, psychology, all these crazy people. And we have one more quote from Martin Luther King Jr. on psychology. He says, "Modern psychology has a word that is probably used more than any other word in psychology. It is the word maladjusted. It is the ringing cry of modern child psychology, maladjusted." Now, at the beginning of the show, we talked about Freud and how he had so many testimonies from little kids about SA that he didn't know what to do with it. The society in Vienna just said, this is little kids' fault, nothing bad is happening. And this is how we get to things like Alfred Kinsey. So, back to the quote. He says, "Of course, we all want to live the well-adjusted life in order to avoid neurotic and schizophrenic personalities. But as I move toward my conclusion, I would like to say to you today, in a very honest manner, that there are some things in our society and some things in our world for which I am proud to be maladjusted, and I call upon all men of goodwill to be maladjusted to these things until the good societies realize. I must honestly say to you that I never intended to adjust myself to racial segregation and discrimination. I never intend to adjust myself to religious bigotry. I never intend to adjust myself to economic conditions that will make necessities from the many to give luxuries to the few and leave millions of God's children smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society." So, Martin Luther King, he's not a saint, but he, I don't know what to say about him. Back then, I thought this was a pretty cool, good quote. I don't know what I think about him now. Obviously, this book, I have changed my views a lot since it came out. But I think he was onto something here that, it's a sign of intelligence to not be adjusted to this stuff, to this world that they have devised for us. I took a picture in Times Square in New York City. I think it was like 2010. And it was everything I was talking about. It was Disney. It was Forever 21. It was Tron. And it was Michael Jackson with this monarch butterfly on his shoulder. New album coming out. And he is monarch confirmed right here. So next time we're going to talk about who was the voice behind the mouse? Who created Mickey Mouse? Weird Life of Walt Disney. He doesn't even know if his parents were his real parents. So we're going to get into that next time. And I think that's it for tonight. I want to thank y'all for coming. Been going about more than 2 hours. Let me double check the last donuts. No more of those. And we'll see ya all next time. Okay, bye.